Hey everybody, welcome to Q&A Wednesday. It is that time again. It's nice and rainy outside, so I'm actually happy to be inside today. The sun had come out. Sorry, I can see like some funky hairs just sticking up there. It's just kind of bugging me. We have a great topic today. I'm staying indoors. It's cold. Today's one of those snuggle days. I just want to snuggle up and hang out and do some of nothing. And I actually got a nap today. Like that never happens. So pretty excited about that. But today I want to talk a little bit about why some of us hit a plateau in our fitness goals. I hear it a lot. I think the biggest struggle for a lot of people is whether or not they're actually making progress in their current goals. And part of that comes down to being realistic about what those goals are and what you have to do to get there. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because that is one of the reasons why people plateau is that, I think people fail to understand what's involved in reaching where they want to go. You have to have not only a realistic goal, but you have to have realistic expectations of what it's going to take to be there. I giggle a lot when people come to me and they're fairly high in body fat, but yet they want to be on, a fitness model within a couple of weeks. I'm going, it just doesn't work that way. So, take stock of what your goals are, think about where you're trying to go, and then really do the research to know what it's going to take to get to where you want to be. Hi, Matthew. We got somebody from Vegas. We got people from all over. It's kind of fun to see who pops up there. So, hey, Donald. So let's talk a little bit about that. The reasons why you might plateau. Now, I know predominantly when I talk to somebody new, it's not always a weight loss goal, although that happens quite frequently. I would say one of the biggest goals that people come to me with is that they do want to lose weight. And while in the interim, that's an okay goal to start with, I think sometimes we're focused on the wrong thing because most of my clients realize as they start to work with me that even though they're seeing results, the scale moving is not always one of them. Hey, Raleigh. So, keep it into perspective that I saw a trainer that his wrists were the same as his biceps. Does that mean small? I don't know. That's kind of funny, Matthew. So we're going to talk about that. I want you to think about what your goals are, whether or not they are realistic. I think one of the biggest downsides of having social media is that, we see all these things on social media thinking, and we compare ourselves, right? Well, gosh, if that person can get to that point, why am I not getting there? And unfortunately, with everything that's involved, we've got filters, we've got, people adopting their pictures, people that are figuring out how to angle themselves their very best in order to make sure, hey, Mike, happy birthday, dude, so that they can kind of put their best foot forward. And of course, I understand that, but, we start comparing ourselves to something that isn't always real. And not only that, if somebody really is in shape all the time, they have to work really hard, not just to get there, but to stay there. And they have to give some things up for that. So let's talk a little bit about why you might have hit plateaus. I would say one of the biggest things that I see when it comes to people hitting a plateau or really not even getting where they want to go is that they start out, especially when they're trying to lose weight or become leaner, they just don't start out with enough calories. They're not getting enough food in. When I talk to people and I do a goal assessment at the beginning of working with them, more than 50%, I sit there and just say, dude, you're just not getting enough calories in. Somebody who's 250 pounds and is only eating 1,200 calories, your body just thinks you're starving. So it's very difficult to get where you want to go if you are crash dieting. If you are starting with just an amount of calories that are just not enough for your body to function, your body just does not know the difference between diet and starvation. And so if you are, not getting enough food for fuel, your body will metabolically slow down. So when people say, I don't feel like my metabolism is up, it probably isn't. If you are just not getting enough food, why would your body burn the fat that you have on you when it literally thinks, well, I don't know when this person's going to get their next meal? So one of the things to look at is, are you starting with enough calories in order to walk yourself down? At 210 pounds, when I was about 32-ish years old, and I started to kind of figure things out, Donald says his goal is to quit eating bread, but he loves it so much. Bread is awesome, but unfortunately, gluten is a highly allergenic nutrient that does cause inflammation. And so I stay away from that stuff. I might have it once in a while for a cheat meal, but my body and I don't, bread is not my thing at this point because I don't like how I feel when I eat it. So, at 210 pounds, and I first started tracking my food, back then we had something called a body bug, which is kind of similar to what the Fitbit is. Unfortunately, it was a little more accurate than the Fitbit, so it's kind of disappointing to go backwards with it. But one of the things that I learned was that, at 210 pounds, I was eating 2,400 calories a day and losing weight. So somebody who's a little bit bigger, if you think about it, the smaller the car, the smaller the gas tank. A Chevy pickup is going to have a much bigger gas tank than a Mazda Miata. So, different gas tanks, different size people, different goals. You have to start in a position where you're teaching your body. It's not that you're tricking your metabolism, but you're teaching your metabolism that it's not going to starve. There's plenty of food, and that it can release those fat stores because you no longer need them. They're not keeping you safe, right? So making sure that you've started, and if you're in a position where maybe you didn't start high enough, it's completely unfortunate that the way that the diet industry is, that it really kind of promotes crash dieting, because of course they want you to come back and buy their food, their gimmicks, their garbage. I just saw a commercial for, one of the diet programs, and I get frustrated every time I see it because they're promoting a bunch of garbage, hey, start our program and we're going to send you these bars that, that look amazing and they taste good. Well, yeah, because they're still processed food. So just because it says diet or they promote it as being healthy doesn't always make it so. Okay. And I know that it can be very frustrating to hit those plateaus, but how I look at it as, instead of trying to guess and figure out what's going on, I look at everything as a formula. When I first start working with someone, I make them track everything that they do. Even if, even if they're not eating right quite yet, I don't even necessarily want them to change anything yet. I just need to see what their current formula is. What do they currently eat? How much are they moving? How much cardio are they doing? Are they strength training? Are they getting enough sleep? How are their stress levels? So I look at some things across the board. I see what their current formula is, and then we look to see what variables that we need to change in order to get them the right direction. And sometimes those variables are not things that you would normally think of. And we're going to hit a couple of those topics today. So the number two reason that people plateau is that they stop tracking. Whenever people get really kind of very far off track and they get a little frustrated and don't know where to start, I say, go back to basics. Start tracking your food, start drinking more water. I think that sometimes when we start to eyeball things and we start to we're not being accountable to ourselves, it's really easy to say, well, I'm just going to have that bite of this and that bite of that and lick off the spoon. And all of a sudden we've ingested 300, 400, 500 more calories than we really need to. And then we can't figure out why we've plateaued. We might be getting those extra calories in, and by not tracking, it makes it really difficult to see what your current formula really truly is, right? So if you've kind of gotten to that point, I don't think that we should have to track everything forever. When I work with someone new and they're like, really, do I have to track my food for the rest of my life? That is so tedious. No, you just track until you kind of can eyeball it. And then after that, once you get to the point where, eyeball it until you get to that point that you're kind of going backwards, that maybe your pants are getting a little too tight again, that you feel you're going backwards a little bit, and then start tracking again. I mean, it makes complete sense that you're going to be way more detailed if you are paying attention. Number 3 reason that you might have plateaued: way too much cardio, not enough strength training. Guys, the more muscle you have, the higher the metabolism. And it's unfortunate that the downside to cardio is that the more you do, the more efficient your body gets at doing it. And that's we don't want our body to be efficient at doing cardio because it burns less calories that way. So when I work with someone, I had a gal once, super, super nice gal. And she, when I sat down with her and she plateaued for like 3 years, she kept saying, I don't know why. Well, she was doing 90 minutes of cardio and no strength training. So her body had gotten really, really efficient at doing that cardio. She wasn't burning nearly the amount of calories, and she wasn't giving her body the metabolism boost by building some muscle. So, again, figure out if that ratio is actually working. I like to use cardio as a tool, that if you're getting ready for a wedding or for summer or for stage or for whatever, you don't want to start out by doing 90 minutes of cardio. That doesn't give you the benefit to kick it in at that last minute and help finish off your goal. So, start out. My goal for cardio literally is to do as little cardio as possible that still gives you results, right? You can wax and wane depending on what your goals are. Someone who's getting ready to get on stage may very well be doing 2 45-minute cardios. Yeah, and by the way, that sucks. But somebody who's just getting started, 20 to 30 minutes max of steady state or maybe a little bit of interval training might work just fine. And so don't overdo it because, again, your body's going to get real good at it real fast. Number 4, too many cheat meals. I've had multiple clients over the years who have done really well during the week, but then they undo everything they have done for the week all weekend, whether it's, a cheat meal that turns into a cheat weekend, or, a pitcher of beer that just undid what they've done all week. It's really easy to get off track. So kind of going back to the tracking, if you find that things are stalling, you might just be taking too much liberty with your cheat meals. Now, I fully believe that there's a difference between a cheat meal, a free meal, and a refeed, right? A cheat meal is a free-for-all, and honestly, I don't think you should be doing that once a week. I don't even necessarily think you should be doing that once a month. Now, a free meal, the difference between a cheat and a free meal just means you're going above and beyond your calories for that day or that week in order to spike your metabolism. So if you're always at a deficit, your body's metabolism will actually drop to meet it. And by having a free meal and getting above and beyond your calories, it's spiking your metabolism a little bit. The problem is when you do like a cheat meal and you do it frequently, your body starts to go, wow, this is way too much sugar. This is way too much hitting my bloodstream, and it starts to store it. So there's a huge difference between that. I do a cheat meal a couple times a year. I don't do, even when I'm in a grow season, I don't do a cheat, quote unquote, cheat meal all the time. I might do a free meal. Now, free meal would be, hey, I really want grilled cheese and tomato soup because, that's something that reminds me of my childhood. Or, hey, I really want pizza, so I'm going to eat, 1 or 2 pieces and have a salad, and that's great. Not the whole pizza, a package of Snickers, the whole pint of ice cream. You get where I'm going with that. If you get too many cheat meals, it might derail you and get you really too far off the path that you're trying to go on. Number 5, you might just be focusing on the wrong thing. Again, the scale does not give you enough information. If you're still dropping, if your numbers are still dropping, whether it's your inches or your body fat, but the scale's not moving, who cares, right? I do have to remind people that, sometimes I ask that question, do you want to be smaller or do you want to lose weight? They don't always go together. Sometimes weight loss is a byproduct of becoming healthier and leaning out. The downside is that weight loss could be coming from muscle loss as well. And I've been there a few times where I've had to make too drastic of a cut too quickly, and I've lost a lot of size and muscle, which, for every pound of muscle you put on, it's 50 extra calories in order to keep and maintain that muscle. It raises your metabolism, so it thereby becomes a natural fat burner. I want to maintain that muscle, and so I don't necessarily want that weight loss. So even my guys start freaking out. Hey, in one breath, they're telling me that they've just done up their notch on their belt 2 or 3 more slots, and then the next minute they're freaking out that the scale hasn't moved. I'm like, who cares, right? Again, what's important? The weight loss has become such a 4-letter word to me because it just doesn't mean anything. I've talked multiple times here about the first time that I went from 210 pounds down to 130. The first time at 130, I was a size 6. Now when I'm 130 pounds, I'm a size 2 because I'm way more muscle and I'm a lot leaner. So again, you got to compare the right thing. The next one, number 6, is hormones. Hormones and age. Now, I've done a lot of research on this. I am in my 40s at this point. So, some of the things that start to happen, our bodies change. And depending on what we've done in the past, our hormones can be greatly affected by that. They can be affected by the amount of the toxins in the environment, eating many, many years worth of processed food and garbage. You guys, there's stuff in that food that your body doesn't know how to handle. And not only does it, our body react badly to it, but it can actually mess with some of our hormones. And we're not just talking about estrogen and testosterone. Those things are something that declines with age. And I find it very important to go get those checked on a regular basis, and not just by your primary care provider, because they only look at regular levels. They're not looking at how well those hormones play together. But, the other thing to remember is even our hormones like ghrelin and leptin, which is our hunger and our satiation hormones. When we eat a lot of garbage and a lot of foods that our body doesn't know how to handle, it actually messes with those hormones, and it creates a confusion within our body on being able to tell whether or not we're hungry or we're full. They've done significant research on high fructose corn syrup that really has come back to show that people that regularly ingest it, their bodies do not tell them that they're actually full. They have a hard time telling when, hey, I'm satiated, I'm full, I don't need any more food, and thereby they overeat on a regular basis. And of course, if we're eating more than we're burning, we have a problem. We're actually putting on weight. So, you know what I mean? Donald says, congratulations on weight loss. You realize that was like a long time ago. That was like 8, 9 years ago. And I appreciate that. I one of the benefits of having been obese for the majority of my adult life is that when I work with people who are starting out from a position where they don't know how to exercise or they don't know how to be healthy, I have some experience, not just with teaching how to deal with it, but having been there myself. And I love to learn. So I'm consistently doing research on that. Back to hormones, the benefit of paying attention to your hormones, even as we get older, it is important to make some determinations as to whether or not you're going to actually replace those hormones. If you choose to do so, even women in our late 30s, early 40s, our testosterone drops. And I know it's not something that we talk about in society. Unfortunately, the medical world is dominated by males. But when in our childbearing years as women, we actually produce more testosterone than we do estrogen. We just don't talk about it because that's like the male thing. I started doing some research years ago when I had multiple clients that were really struggling with things like depression, anxiety, weight gain around the midsection. And I came to find out that it really wasn't necessarily associated to perimenopause, which is people getting, women getting ready to go through menopause. It actually was stemming from the drop in testosterone levels. So for each hormone that you replace now bioidentically, if you don't know anything about that, do some more research. There's some options that are great and there's some options that are synthetic that aren't so great. Our body doesn't know how to deal with them. As a matter of fact, as for women, when we start to replace estrogen and progesterone in a synthetic form, it can not only be really hard and bad for our bodies, but it's been known to cause cancer. My grandmother had that. She had breast cancer stemming from hormone replacement therapy. I did do a lot of research on that and come to find out it's not from the bioidenticals. It is from synthetic hormones. So make sure that you're doing your homework, that you know what you're talking about, that you're visiting someone who's a specialist and knows how to pay attention to that. Like I said, if it's not just about your hormone levels. And to be honest, you know what? My hormone levels fall within my range for my age, but I call crap on that. I don't want to feel like my age. I want to feel like I still felt when I was in my 30s, and it's a possibility. Now, it's not going to be cheap, but it is a possibility. So you're going to have to make some decisions. But they say that for every hormone that you will bioidentically replace, it actually, it buys you 10 more years of youth. So I don't know about you, but I want to keep my energy level up. I want to be able to go strong and do all the things that I want to accomplish. I like having energy. So to me, that's super important. Number 7 is stress. You see those stupid commercials where they're like, when you are stressed, your body releases cortisol, which is actually true, but there is not a stupid pill that's going to take care of that. Mike says if you're plateauing, it's time to think about changing goals. You are absolutely right. That's actually one of my tips that we're going to talk about in a minute. But stress and cortisol does play a huge role in our body. Now, there's a role for cortisol. Number one, it's the fight or flight. In our ancestors, when they were going to be eaten or shot or whatever, cortisol was important because they needed that increase of energy to be able to run away or do whatever they needed to do. Because of our world today where we are pretty constantly stressed, our body does constantly release cortisol, and that does tell your body to store fat. Fat is your body's way of keeping you healthy. It's a way of keeping you alive. It's a survival mechanism on multiple levels, not just to fight famine or starvation, but also to prevent you from all kinds of things, toxins. When we have a lot of body fat, we have to stop and take a look at our stress levels and where we're at there, because if our cortisol never turns off, number one, it doesn't just drain our adrenals and cause adrenal fatigue and failure, but it's really hard on our bodies. It makes it a lot harder to do a lot of things, such as, have great vitality, but sleep well. There's a lot of downsides to that. The other time that cortisol is important is, of course, in our circadian rhythm or our sleep cycle. When we get ready for bed at night, the serotonin in our bodies puts us to sleep. It calms us down, gets us ready for that. When we need to wake up in the morning, our body releases a small round of cortisol in order to jumpstart us and get us moving in the morning. Again, the problem is a lot of us, our sleep cycles are off. We are stressed out, so then we struggle to sleep. We don't get in the right rhythm of things, and our body actually likes a schedule. And when we get it too far off that schedule, it causes and wreaks havoc on our systems, which again can cause us to plateau. So I know that's a lot of information there, but hopefully you followed that and it makes sense. Number 8 is you might just have, and this is kind of back to you might not have started with enough calories or with enough food. Your deficit might be too big. I think sometimes we think, if if we need to eat less than we burn, if I eat a lot less than I burn, I'm going to lose weight faster. And that's not true. Your body will actually go into starvation mode. Your metabolism will drop to meet that intake. And now you'll be not only not losing weight or not getting where you want to go with your health goals, but you will feel sluggish. Your whole system actually slows down. So if you're struggling with things like brain fog, headaches, you might take a look at where you're at with your food. And there's ways to figure it out. It's not perfect, but it's going to give you a really great idea. If you have a Fitbit and you know how many calories in a 24-hour period you're burning, and if you are tracking your food, in general, you should be able to figure out your deficit of calories. Now, obviously, the macros matter too, because those macros do different things. And so your formula of macros depends upon whatever your goal is. And the quality of macros, yeah, I'm talking to you guys if it fits your macros. So again, it's just a generalization, but you might have too big of a deficit. If you're just not getting enough food, your body will not drop any further. Okay. So I'm sure that there's some more, but those are the big ones that I come upon when I'm working with clients. So just some tips in order to maybe jumpstart your metabolism or kind of figure out what's going on. Number one, be patient. If the numbers are still moving, if you're still seeing progress, I know even in a lean out season, there's a few weeks there that, I don't drop any weight wise, but I can totally tell my body's showing me my clothes fit differently. I can still see that I'm seeing results. It doesn't have to always be the scale. Again, that's such a misrepresentation of whether or not you're actually reaching your goals. That scale, we put way too much faith in the scale. It just doesn't mean enough. And yes, I've been known to take my clients' scales away when they're addicted. Go back to tracking. If you really are feeling like you're not getting where you want to go, again, you might not be on target. You might be eating too much. You might be getting too much sugar. Maybe your carbs are way too high. Guys, carbs are your energy source. If you're taking in if you're taking in more carbs than your body really needs, why would it tap into your fat stores as a fuel source? It won't, because you're already giving it everything that you need. Now, again, I don't believe in cutting out carbs as a nutrient. I think that if you're eating a plant-based carb, a complex carb, that there's way too many benefits nutrient-wise to be cutting that out. But that is a topic for another day. I've talked about it before. As Mike was just talking about earlier, try a different goal or a different tactic. If you're going to the gym and you're doing the same workout with the same weights and you're doing the same cardio, you might need to change it up. Again, your body adapts very, very quickly. And so if you haven't made any changes across the board there, you got to change something. You got to shake it up a little bit. Keep yourself from getting bored. Keep yourself motivated. In order for your body to even want to put on more muscle, you have to put a new demand on it. So keep in mind, you might have to shake things up or try something a little bit different. Also, as your body changes with your goals, you're going to have to change what you do. You're going to have to reassess where you're at. Back to the smaller the car, the smaller the gas tank. At 210 pounds, I needed to eat way more food than I do now at 130 pounds because my metabolism has changed. It's a lot different. You might need to increase your fiber. Fiber helps your system move more efficiently. You don't want the waste to stay in your system. As that waste stays in your system and your intestines, your body's still trying to absorb nutrients from that, and it doesn't need it. So in order to keep your body flushing and moving forward, you might need to increase your fiber, especially if you're having issues. We won't go into TMI, but if you're having issues, okay? Check your sugar intake. One of the most interesting things I find is when I start working with someone and I go in to check their food log on my Fitness Pal, and I don't stalk people because I literally don't have time to stalk people, but they might say, Melissa, I'm under my calories every day. Why am I not getting where I want to go? And I hop on there and I discover, well, their sugars are through the roof. Again, sugar spikes insulin. Insulin tells your body to store. That might be a problem. And if you're like me and you have a huge sweet tooth, it's really easy to keep getting off track that direction. Once I start eating sugar, I can't stop. So, for me at this point, I just completely cut it out with maybe some natural sugar and some of the fruit that I eat. Use a Fitbit. If you really don't know where you're at, although a Fitbit is not 100% accurate, it can give you a good idea of not only how many calories you're burning, but also the amount of movement and activity for the day, right? I had a little gal once, again, I meet some great people, but everybody's a learning experience because everybody's so different. I have to kind of learn how they work and then work with that, with their strengths and their weaknesses. And I had a little gal and she took an incredible amount of steps every day, like 15,000 steps. But when I went into her Fitbit information on her phone, I discovered that those steps, because she had a job where she was on her feet all day, but she's just moving from side to side. She wasn't getting the actual activity levels that she needed. So those 15,000 steps are great, but they weren't getting her heart rate up. So that gives you the tools that you need to see, where are you at? You might have to reassess that. And if you're getting less than, 3,000 steps a day, you're sedentary. Learn to get up and move more. That might be part of the role. The other thing that I love about a Fitbit, now you do, in order to keep track of how many calories you're burning, and realize when I ask people how many calories they're burning, I don't mean during their workout. I mean 24 hours. And that 24 hours, because I need to know how many calories they should be eating by how many calories they're burning. That's kind of more the role that it plays. But the Fitbit also can track your sleep, which I find fascinating. And primarily that's why I wear a Fitbit anymore, because I already know food-wise where I'm at. But I find it fascinating to see what my sleep is, how often I wake up, what my deep sleep is at all times. Because, of course, deep sleep is where you actually reset your body and where you grow. Your body releases the natural growth hormone. And it's important to make sure that you're hitting that point, that target, within your sleep. And the Fitbit will actually teach you that. So, having spent years and years trying to guess why things weren't happening and why I couldn't lose weight and why I was overweight and obese and couldn't figure this all out, I now really rely on science. I'm looking at science and some book knowledge along with some experience with a heavy dose of common sense to kind of figure out what things are going wrong and what needs to change. Next, watch your salt. If you're intaking more carbs, don't weigh yourself the day after a cheat or a free meal. You're going to be retaining more water because carbs actually absorb more water. Same thing with salt. If you're getting way more salt that you need, some salt is important. Your electrolyte balance is based on sodium, potassium, magnesium. There's a certain amount, hi Douglas, that you need in order for your body to be able to function and flush, and your natural diurese to work. And when you're intaking way too much sodium, which the American diet kind of promotes, you're probably going to be retaining more water, and that can actually make the scale go up. So, whenever I would have a cheat or a free meal or a refeed, I'm up like 8 pounds because that's how much a gallon of water weighs. And I won't weigh myself the day after that because I don't want it to mess with my head. Don't skip meals. It's not smart to skip meals. I don't even when I'm having a cheat meal or a free meal, I don't skip any of my other meals. I don't look at it as, well, I'm going to have this big meal in the evening, so I need to skip all this, because by skipping my meals, my metabolism slows. Then I put that giant meal on top of it. I've kind of totally done myself a disservice. I need my metabolism to stay up so that when I eat that free meal or that refeed, that it boosts my metabolism again, right? Check your macros. If your macros are off for whatever your goal is, or if you are getting way too much processed food or sugar, you're not going to, that's a really good reason why you're plateauing. It's so easy, like I said, to sometimes start justifying once we've been doing it a while, get a little lazy about tracking what we're doing. And then we start to have issues with going backwards. That was one of the first reasons years ago that I started to compete. I'm very goal oriented. I'm very driven. And it's super, super easy. I've had an unhealthy relationship with food most of my life. And in order to really give myself a goal that's bigger than my obstacles, I needed something that would keep me out of the M&Ms, right? I tell people the caramel M&Ms are crack. Don't bring them home, because an open bag is an empty bag at my house. We talked about changing up your exercises. You might need to go heavier. You might need to lift different. Here's the deal, guys. Everybody can strength train. Everybody. I don't care where you are in your life, even people who have some significant injuries, there are isometric contractions that you can do. It doesn't have to be crazy heavy lifting, although women shouldn't be afraid of lifting heavy. I lift ridiculously heavy, and I eat so much food to try and get where I'm trying to go. And of course, in my 40s now, I'm struggling a little bit to put on some size. I find it fascinating how many women still believe this big lie that, it's just, if you lift heavy, you're going to get bulky. It's not true. You're not going to get bulky. Cupcakes make you bulky. Putting on a bunch of muscle underneath fat and not choosing to burn off the fat will make you look bulky, but you can't get bulky as a woman. You just don't produce enough testosterone. So, but everybody can strength train. I get a lot of older clients whose doctors have said, you have to get your core strength up or you're not going to be independent much longer, because core strength is your balance. It's super important. If you want a good quality of life and you want to remain independent, having some muscle tone is important for everyone. Get more sleep. If you are not getting the right amount of sleep, your body cannot reset. I know this for an absolute fact. I spent the last 5 years averaging probably 5.5 hours a night. And I kicked myself really wondering if had I fixed that situation, how much better I would have done at my goals when it comes to strength training and competing, if I would have allowed my body the rest that it really truly needed. And then also take a rest day. People think, well, if some is good, more must be better. No, your body does not grow when you lift. Your body grows when you rest and recover. It breaks the muscle down when you lift. So too much of one and not the other is not beneficial. So if you're not allowing your body, if you're overtraining, your body will fight you and possibly hit a plateau because it can't keep up. It can't keep up with your schedule or what you're doing. That also can be applied to just life. Like if you don't ever stop, I'm kind of pointing at myself at this point. If you don't ever stop and allow yourself to reset and rest, your body's just not going to do what it needs to do. You're not giving your body the tools that it needs in order to drop the weight, get lean, be healthier. Everything's a balance. If you think of it as, trying to figure out, and you're never going to fully arrive. So get over that thought process. For all of us, life changes pretty frequently. You're never going to be in a position where you've got it all figured out. Even now, recently I had my hormones tested. I'm actually having some issues with thyroid now. Fantastic. I mean, that's normal getting older. So in order to make sure that my body runs to the best of its ability and it functions well, I got to make sure that I'm giving my body what it needs. I've got to reduce stress. I've got to make sure that I'm eating well. That part is not the issue, but I'm not very good at stopping and resting. So that's something that I have to learn to do. So if you are struggling to reach your goals, I think the last thing I want to leave you with is that you really have to decide how far you really want to go. There is a point where if you feel like, hey, as a woman, I want to be 12% body fat, you're going to have to give up some things to maintain that. You can't have a glass of wine every night and be 12% body fat. That just does not work. The leaner you want to be, the more technically you're going to have to give up. So finding that balance in your life is really, really important because, mentally and emotionally, it takes a toll on you. Can you keep that up? I want to be able to have a drink once in a while. I love chocolate. I make myself earn it. But if I had to live that lifestyle where I never got anything extra again, I mean, that kind of sucks. And part of being human and being on this earth is being able to enjoy some things. So I just don't do it on a regular daily basis anymore. Anyway, so hopefully that helps. You guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate your feedback. If you have questions and concerns, I get my best ideas from you guys. Make sure that you leave a comment below. Share this with your friends. I'm just trying to teach the world how things really truly are and not how the media portrays them to be. We have so many people that are just frustrated and come to me with the same questions over and over and over again. And that's why I do these, to try and help you understand that what is out there, that information is out there. A lot of it is just to sell something, guys. I do this for free. I get on here for free. I give this information for free. It is possible to be healthy. It is possible to be happy. And that's my goal for you. I am your biggest fan and your biggest cheerleader. So, hey guys, happy Wednesday. We will talk to you soon and have a good night.